Hi, Snow. We've been working on this one for a few weeks. We have Christian
excited.
Finnegan.
Yay!
Oh
Welcome.
my gosh, what a big day for all of us.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for
Thanks
doing
for
this.
being here.
Thank you for
Pleasure.
coming on in Kingman, Arizona.
Yes.
Hey, you never know. I mean, maybe this is the beginning of my Kingman, Arizona fan base. This is the origin of it right here. When people say, where did the Christian Finnegan cult get started? They'll say Kingman, Arizona on August 25.
Do you know anything about Kingman, Arizona?
I mean, only literally, I think what y'all told me when we were hanging out after Podjam, the Pete Dominic's Vegas weekend. You were telling me about how you're in Ghost Arts District and how it's just a brutally red place, and so like I think that's pretty much what I know about it. What you have told me.
Yeah.
Another fun fact is Timothy McVeigh lived here for a short period of time.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Do they have a plaque on the building?
You would think that they would, some of the folks around here, you know?
Yeah, and when Sasha Baron Cohen was doing Who is America, he chose Kingman, Arizona to come to find the most racist place in the United States.
And boy,
Hey,
were they pissed.
Yeah.
They were pissed here when he did his episode. They were like, this so-called comedian. They were so mad the mayor spoke out about it.
You always know that someone's feeling pissy when they use the term so-called comedian. Like, that's always how you know that it's like they're angry and they don't want to admit that they've been humiliated.
I know. And the whole time I'm sitting there, I go, do you guys like walk around this town with your eyeballs poked out? I'm like, this is exactly what it's like living here. I'm like, these are exactly the folks that live here.
Mm-hmm. Which character was he in that episode? I remember he had the Israeli soldier guy that.
He was the bald guy with the glasses. Like he wore the partial, and he was like, he came in to tell the people that they were going to be getting a new mosque built in Kingman. Yeah. And they lost their shit.
I'm sure they must have.
The people in the audience lost their ever-loving shit. Yeah.
So speaking of comedy, what do you think about what's going on with the whole Paramount thing and how they're trying to silence Colbert?
I mean, it's pathetic. Obviously, it's the thing that makes me feel, I wouldn't say it makes me feel better, but the thing I try to keep in mind is that these companies, their allegiance to Trump, I mean, maybe the top, like the Sherry, whatever her name is, Adelson, Sherry Adelson, who's now like the, Sheldon Adelson's widow. Maybe she's like hard in for Trump, but a lot of what these companies, they're really just in it for the money. And if the market research tells them to have a rainbow flag for Pride Month, then they'll do that. If the market tells them to take down the Pride flag, they'll do that. And so I try to, at least, maybe I'm trying to make myself feel better, is that the sort of fascism. And, whatever, I feel like the safety seal has been broken off that word. I think we can call it what it is. The fascism that companies like Paramount are embracing, they're embracing with the same bullshit enthusiasm with which they embraced equality and, sending out a tweet for Martin Luther King's birthday. Like, none of it means anything. I mean, it's a corporate entity, and they're just literally going where they think the dollars are. But that is the road to hell is paved with capitalist intentions, I guess. It's pathetic. I mean, it's Colbert. Late night in general, I think, is an easy target because the numbers really aren't there anymore. It's a bit of a vestigial limb at this point, in terms of entertainment. Somebody told me that the Colbert's average viewer age was 68, which,
my mom does love him. So that makes sense.
But I think it's more just that, like who watches late night television?
Right.
Who needs to watch like the Tonight Show monologue or the Late Show monologue to catch up on their day? I mean, most people have already been on social media all day. By the time the Colbert's monologue comes in, anybody under the age of 50 has already read or made the jokes.
Oh yeah, my mom is up late at night though watching them. Like they still watch, so that makes total sense that you say that. I mean, I love Colbert too, but
and to be fair, I just watch it on YouTube
I watched
or whatever.
I watched the repeats.
You watch the viral clips that go around, for sure. Yeah. So I'm saying I'm not justifying it by any means, but it kind of made Paramount's job a little easier because basically the only person who cares about late night television is Donald Trump. I mean, he's the one that gets upset about it,
Well, he is in that age range.
Yes,
He is up all night watching TV.
Right? Yeah.
And people, I think the skeleton key to deciphering this enigma of Donald Trump is just to always think that we're in 1993 in his mind.
Oh, God.
You know what I mean? That that's how he views the world. He views the world from like 85 to 95 is kind of his worldview, and like all the celebrities are the celebrities that he thinks are huge are the celebrities who are celebrities then. The media landscape, like he just sits around and watches TV, like he's that guy. I mean, it's obviously as people around him who are much more tech savvy, but every time Trump says or does something weird, I always remember like, oh yeah, he's not like. I had an uncle who had schizophrenia, and he spent his entire adult life thinking he lived in the 1940s. Like, not literally, but that he lived like a guy in the 1940s. And I always think of Trump like that. Like, he's just a dude who was made for a different time, so.
That's funny. Like, that would be funny. Did your uncle go around being like, "Hey, what's up there, doll face"?
Well, he did kind of use all of that, like soda pop and like all these terms that you would never use in the real world. I think what it was is that he kind of stopped maturing at a certain age. He got married and had a child, and then went kind of, for lack of a better word, had his breakdown around the age of like 28 or something. And I think in terms of like culturally, it just, that's where he stayed for the rest of his life. Not the 40s, but like the 50s and 60s. Like he was born in probably 42 or something. So like he just never entered the 70s or 80s or 90s, but anyway.
Yeah. No, it makes it. I mean, it makes sense when it's explained like that,
Yeah, I mean, he's just, the way he dresses, his taste, like his awful, god-awful
hair?
Mar-a-Lago taste. Well, even just his aesthetics,
Oh, yeah, that too.
Gold-plated everything.
Oh,
yeah, it's all like a wedding venue in 1988 is always...
Yeah. Since when is like gold fixtures and marble really popular? It hasn't, but...
Yeah.
Even when he was on his show, and remember he took everyone, he's like, "I'm going to take you to my apartment. It's the most amazing apartment you'll ever see," and then you see it on the, and I remember watching that episode. I actually watched The Apprentice, like the first season of The Apprentice, and I'm like, that is god awful. I'm like, everything in there is like gold statues and marble and shit. Who wants that?
Well, there's all these stories about how when they started The Apprentice, the Burnett or Mark Burnett, the producer, that they were like, all right, we're going to film this at Trump Tower, and it's going to look really cool because he's a big businessman. And they got there, and it was like all the furniture was like stained and from like the mid 80s, like everything, nothing was updated. And so they basically had to create that quote unquote boardroom from scratch. That was just a set, because it just didn't look good on camera, his actual home or his actual office rather. But now he's
how embarrassing.
So I don't know that he's embarrassed.
Yeah, I don't think he can get embarrassed, but it's like That would have been great if they would have filmed all that.
But not embarrassed, if that makes any sense.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, he can be vindictive and humiliated.
Do you think South Park humiliated him last week?
Oh,
I hope so. I'd like to think that trickled into his worldview at some, that somebody put that in front of his face.
It had to.
It's
I mean, the little dick stuff alone. The stuff, he had to have been humiliated by the penis and everything, especially talking at the end.
You would like to think. But you never know.
You have to hand it to Matt and Trade to sign that deal, though, and then to put out that episode first and be like, okay, fire us.
Yeah, I think honestly, I interpreted that episode as more a swing at Paramount, or as much of a swing at Paramount as Trump, because it was just like, we're going to do something that's so over the top, and we're going to dare you to fire us because you've already given us you've already signed the contract and whatever, and they basically make the show on their own. I mean, they have complete autonomy in one of the few television situations that still exists like that. And so it is really interesting to see how easy it is to sort of stand up if you want to. If you're in a position of power, to me, I don't understand why people aren't shooting for the history books by, making by fighting. I think of all these universities. I understand there's research money and they're beholden to their endowments and all that. But don't you want to? Isn't this the opportunity to like get your name in the history books by fighting? I don't understand the rollover other than the financial. But like I don't understand why people are just so pathetic.
That's what I thought was so great. It was like the Daily Show episode came out like 2 days before, and Jon Stewart doing the sack the fuck up, and then go fuck yourself. I'm like, then the South Park episode comes out. I was like, fuck yeah, this has been like a real great week now. Like there's really been people, putting their balls out there on the line, which is what we need.
Yeah. I think the more people who do that the water gets warmer for everybody. People tend to follow the pack in a good way, a bad way, and if you can model good behavior, people will follow that. And if you model laying over and playing dead and hoping that the bully will leave you alone, then
it never works. It never works.
Stand together or fall apart. But it's easy for me to say that. I'm not. No one's putting me to the test yet. I'm sure we all will be put to the test by the end of the day. But right now.
Yeah, but we all know bullies, and rolling over never works with them. You have to punch back. You have to.
You have
That's
to.
the only way that it works.
It's the only way. You have to exact a cost. Like there has to be a cost to it, or else they'll never stop. If I tell you to give me $5 every day and you just give it to me, and you're like, I really don't want to give you $5 anymore. It's like, okay, sure, but give me $5, and you never retaliate or deny me that. We're saying the same thing,
right? Yeah.
But people overall are so distracted by the bullshit. Now you had like the Syndey Sweeney thing this week, which I didn't even see the outrage about it. All I saw was people reacting to the outrage.
Yeah, that's the game. Is they'll find two random tweets by some 19-year-old in Duluth, Minnesota, and it'll be like, oh, the liberals can't handle it. It's like, no, 3 random people had a hot take on social media that they thought would get them followers. That's it. That's all it is. It's not there's not some principled stand. Nobody's showing up outside of Syndey Sweeney's film sets with posters and angry pitchforks. It's just dumb people, the classic cliche, on the toilet shooting off stupid tweets.
Yeah.
It's
and all I thought was, I saw the ad and I was just like, okay, yeah, you got the the hottest actress in movies right now to do an ad for you. And that's all. I didn't read into anything. Oh, Syndey has great genes. Yes, she does. She has great genes.
Yeah, I wouldn't have read into it at all. I mean, I didn't even hear about it until it was already a thing.
Right.
But I wouldn't have read into it at all even 10 years ago. I don't blame Syndey Sweeney. Syndey Sweeney has nothing to do with this, but surely there must have been a conversation among the American Eagle people when they were putting together this ad campaign, either there or the ad agency that did it, that, who's using the word genes these days? It's Trump and white nationalists. That's where you the word GENE, not GEAN, but JEN. But like no person who's not a Nazi is bringing up genes, because that word has been polluted. I mean, we're in this sort of neo-eugenics era, all these podcast bros and stuff like that talking about, alpha dog mentality and white genocide and all this shit. And so it's not so much that Syndey Sweeney has good genes is offensive out of context, but that, I think that the argument, if you were going to say that there's an issue, is that there is a context, and the context is that the word genes only seems to come up these days when white nationalists use it. But still, I don't think anybody gave a shit. Nobody cares.
The craziest thing about that, so I listen to progressive news while I'm at work on the progressive channel on Sirius XM. And they were even saying, they're like, they were not saying that they were at all offended by it. Like, they were like, American Eagle has always been known for like their diversity and whatnot. And they were mentioning like I can't remember, but they were mentioning like the top countries that their clothing does the best in. And it's like, I don't even understand who was outraged by this ad.
And the answer is 8 people.
Yeah, I don't even get this, because it's like if you even went and listened to like what conservatives would consider the woke, news outlet, they were not outraged by it. They were like, this is.
But that's like the whole.
I've never even heard about it from them.
Yeah, they're like, this is stupid.
That's like
there was nothing wrong with it.
The whole last campaign when Harris, they were saying, well, she just wants rights for transsexuals. And it's like, I haven't heard Harris really say anything about transsexuals other than everybody should have the same rights, basic human rights. And I think that was pretty much the extent of it.
Yeah. And I mean, the conservatives, they have to be the bully and the victim at the same time. That's what fuels their behavior, and that's the permission structure they give themselves. Is that we're this besieged minority, we're the noble few who are being having these liberal ideas foisted upon us by the culture at large, and that then frees them to act the way they want to act, which is violent and aggressive and bigoted and all those things, because they tell themselves, "Oh, we're under attack. We're under attack by the liberal culture." It's like, no, it's really just a bunch of people trying to live their lives and be pointed at.
Yeah, I think they just keep doing that so they can try to just keep us fighting with each other. Honestly, I mean, I have no other answer for it.
Well, sure.
Well, a great example of that.
It's very easy. Sorry.
The great example of that is the New York mayor race. Like Mamdani has great ideas. On paper, really great ideas. Hey, let's have rent control. Let's pay everybody a livable wage.
Free buses.
What's so radical about that? It's not. I mean, that's my wife was working for his campaign, and I did a little bit of door knocking for him as well. And the sort of go-to line that my wife had been using for like relatives of ours who don't understand, we just say he's an FDR Democrat. That's all it is. I mean, this is the kind of politics that the Democrats used to represent in the 30s. And that's all. It's just that the goalposts have shifted so far to the right that now, like, what's considered a centrist Democrat now would have been like not even a liberal Republican, like a mainstream Republican in the 80s. the Alyssa Slotkins of the world. She would absolutely have been a Republican in my youth.
Right.
And so people just don't remember, and people don't remember what it's like to hear somebody actually say what they believe in a concise way, in an unembarrassed, unfocus grouped way. We're so used, especially from Democrats, to hear this just completely bland mush of word salad, that when you hear somebody who says, hey, why can't we do A, B, and C? And people are like, yeah, why can't we? And everybody, it feels very revolutionary, but it shouldn't be. I like Zohran quite a bit, but it's like, he's not Superman. He's just a guy who knows what he believes and is willing to say it out loud and won't back down when people call him to question about it. That should be the norm.
Yeah, you shouldn't be afraid to say what you stand for. If people like it,
Sure.
then they're going to get on board with it. I love what you said about the FDR Democrat, though. I tell people that all the time. I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm considered like the new person. I have to go around labeling myself as a progressive, and that's like some new thing. I'm like, but I'm really just an FDR Democrat. I'm like, or maybe even an Eisenhower Republican. I'm like, everything has changed so much. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, imagine now, and I'm not the first person to make this, I don't want to act like this was my original thought, but imagine if libraries didn't exist. Imagine being a politician and going to government and be like, what if we opened a building in every town where there were just books and computers and people could just go there basically for free, and they could be there all day if they wanted. Can you imagine the sort of calls of socialism and just like these things that we take for granted because they've been there our entire lives? All of a sudden, if you were to put them in 2025 politics, it would seem like ridiculously radical. And that just kind of shows how we're sort of the frog in the proverbial pot,
Yeah, and it shows how people don't know, like, the meanings of words, too. Like, they'll scream around, especially around where we live, like, it's like socialism, communism, those are all bad words. And I'm like, and it's not like we're necessarily, I'm not necessarily for communism, but socialism is like we already have that. If you guys didn't realize like how many things already are technically socialist things that you like. And it's like but they don't even get that. I mean,
no, of course not. I mean, nothing is pure socialism in this country, and nothing is pure capitalism either. Because if you had pure, unfettered capitalism, that would last about 3 years, and then we would have warlords. Like that. It was like if there was unfettered capitalism, there would be like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, and there would be like 10 billionaires who, I mean, now they theoretically run the country, but it would be like literally just warlords, because if there was nothing stopping people from doing anything, if there wasn't any sort of collective rights of the people, then that's what it would devolve into. And, it's hard to talk to anybody right now, but I always try to frame these conversations when I have conversations with people who are on the right. It's like, you think there should be like a fire department, right? Like, you think there should be roads and that everyone should be able to drive on them, right? And, any good faith person will agree with that. It's like, okay, so let's start right there. So you don't believe in 100% unfettered capitalism, like, or libertarianism. Like, you do believe that there is such a thing called a government, and that a government has certain responsibilities to its people. Now that you have that established, and I don't believe that everyone should be handed out the exact same amount of money in these 12 by 12 homes, and we should live like it's the early days of Soviet Russia. I don't believe that either. So now that we have the parameter set, like, where's the point? Like, it's somewhere in the middle there. Completely off. Did you guys watch the Brady Bunch when you were kids?
Yes.
I think it's the very first episode where they move in together, and Mike and Carol Brady are moving in their clothes into the closet, and one of the subplots is they have one of Mrs. Brady's high heels hanging on the rod, and they keep moving it back and forth to decide who gets more of the closet, like who, and that's kind of how I think of politics. It's like we all agree that the shoe goes somewhere on the rack. So it's just between ridiculous capitalism and like absurd communism. It's somewhere in between there. So just shouting communist, 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 it's idiotic, and it's meant as a distraction and to just push people's buttons who have grown up hearing that word from Ronald Reagan and thinking of it as being like the Soviet Union.
Do you think Mamdani has a chance?
Oh, I think he's likely.
I think he's gonna win. I don't live there, but I think he's gonna win.
I think he's likely at this point. I mean, you never know. They're going to pull out all the stops. But I think that the size of his victory over Cuomo and the fact that, I don't want to bore you and your audience with New York ephemera, but there's Cuomo, who's in the race, and then there's Eric Adams, who's the mayor currently, who, of course, we all know was indicted on massive corruption charges that Trump pardoned him for. Yep. And then the third one, the guy who's running as the de facto Republican, is this guy Curtis Sliwa, who people may remember as the founder of the Guardian Angels in the 80s. He would wear this red beret. Oh my
God, I remember that.
They were like this vigilante group that would like go on subways and try to stop muggings and stuff. Yeah.
Weren't they because of the guy? Weren't they because of that one guy that did the vigilante?
Bernie Getz.
Yes, Bernie Getz. I couldn't think of his name. Okay, I remember all that.
I think that was sort of his claim to fame, or that was the same era for certain. But that guy's been kind of a New York City gadfly. He was a local talk radio guy for years, with like a Kunstler. As a liberal lawyer in Curtis Lewa used to do like a left-right radio show in New York for years.
Okay.
But, he ran for mayor 4 years ago, and it was kind of like a novelty campaign. Nobody really, I think he got a lot of Staten Island, but probably not much more than that.
But Staten Island is like...
very, very, very red, yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess the point I'm trying to make, though, is that the thing that the three of those people have in common, Eric Adams, Cuomo, and Curtis Lewa, is they're incredible narcissists who have zero interest in somebody. I read some article about this, like, if you could never find three people less likely to take one for the team. So, like, none of them are going to, like, bow out and endorse the other two. And so... that is why I think Mamdani is in a good position to win, because I just think that the ego will not allow any of those three. I think Cuomo has received too much money from people, and the money that he's received, the money people that have donated to him are like, you're not getting out, you're staying in. We're going to drag you across the finish line and make you be mayor. I don't think it's going to work, but I think that's what they're hoping.
Cuomo has like all the bad stuff about him too, like all the all the sexual stuff. Like
people who don't live around New York. I mean, obviously the name Cuomo holds a lot of weight. My dad worshipped Mario Cuomo, his father. Mm-hmm. I grew up in Massachusetts, but Mario Cuomo was a very erudite, well-spoken, interesting guy, and I'd like to think that he was better than his sons, but maybe I was just 9 years old and didn't know the difference.
Right.
But Cuomo, people will say, oh, he was an effective governor, blah, 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 but not really. And a lot of the ways in which he was effective was by essentially triangulating between Democrats and Republicans when he was governor, of playing Democrats against each other. He was not good for Democrats in the state at all. He elevated a bunch of Republicans to high positions, and it's a long, boring story. But basically, being a bit of a dick, a dick, and so people don't like him. People would vote for him because he seemed inevitable. And people were cozying up to him because it seemed like, he's Andrew Cuomo. He was the governor of New York. Of course he's going to win the mayor's race. And now that he hasn't, I don't see how anyone who didn't vote for him in the primary is going to change their minds about him and vote for him in the general. So, I'm stupid, but I think Mamdani will win.
What part of Mass were you from? I lived in Peabody for quite a while.
Peabody. I've been saying it like a true Massachusetts person. No Peabody. I grew up in a town called Acton, which is about 45 minutes northwest of Boston. Acton and Concord, those two towns. Revolutionary War nonsense.
Walden Woods out in that area. Like nothing.
Exactly. Okay. Yes, I grew up in. I spent a good amount of time in Walden, near Walden Pond. Don Henley never mentioned that it's literally next to a landfill, but
I didn't know that either. I went to one of his benefit concerts that he was doing for it. Down there's this little amphitheater down near the water in Boston, near the aquarium, and I had a friend, Nick Carter, used to be a DJ on BCN, and he got me tickets. And I'm like sitting among the Kennedys. And I'm like going, oh my God, why am I sitting among these people? And the Kennedys are looking at me like, well, why is this guy singing among us?
Yeah, it's when I was, I've been doing comedy for 1,000 years, and sometimes I'll do like a corporate gig, and they'll fly me out first class, which is awesome. But I can always tell that I'm like bringing down the prestige of first class by I'm clearly not on the same economic strata as everyone sitting around me. And there's not like a suspicion, but like sometimes I'll get a look from the guy next to me, like, are you sure you're in the right section? Because you're wearing sweatpants.
Yeah, but how's the gigs though? Like going to your dad's nursing home to play a gig.
Yeah, are we going to call it a gig? Can we really call it a gig, or are we going to call that a mitzvah? Or just my dad had moved into assisted living about 8 months ago, and he begged me to come and do stand-up at his new home. And I agreed, thinking he was going to be like 10 minutes. It turns out he wanted me to do an hour, which is insanity. These people, like, what are you doing? Not even talking about me. What are you doing to the other residents? Like, you think they want to sit through an hour of just some guy they've never seen talking? And so I haggled him down to 40 minutes. But I ended up doing about 45, I think. It was hard because a lot of my materials is filthy, and another big chunk of my material might be technically clean, but it's, morbid or dark. Not really the kind of thing
they're already in a nursing home. Yeah.
Yeah, their life is morbid. Like they don't need me reminding them of that. And so I really had to like.
Did you go for the dirty stuff then?
No, I didn't. I dug through like old material, and I told him, like, I'm going to have to look at my notes, or else I'm going to say something filthy and awful that will scandalize everyone. But there were like 2 really good audience members, and sometimes that's all it takes to sort of kind of just make it less uncomfortable. They give this sort of, and everybody was pleasant, and it was totally lovely. And I did some crowd work with the staff and with the residents and all. But this is not a gig that I plan on putting on my my resume, so to speak.
Did you ever play the Comedy Connection
in Boston?
Yeah,
I did. I played it a couple times. The one in Faneuil Hall. I headlined that once, and then they moved at some point, and I think I did it once more. But I never did comedy in Boston, like as an amateur. I started when I moved to New York, so I have like no professional connection to Boston. Like I performed in Boston the same way I performed in Philly or DC or whatever. But yeah, there was the couple times I have performed in Boston. I have had like people from my junior high and high school show up unbeknownst to me, just in the audience, and that's always a bit of a trip.
Way back in the day, I went to one. There was a Comedy Connection that was above Kowloon's in Saugus.
Sure.
And I saw Bill Burr there with like 12 other people, and I was just like, and looking back at the time, I went up. He was nice enough. I went up and talked to him, and like he's cool. Shut shit with him for a while, and to see where he's progressed from there, to what he is now was just amazing.
Only 12 people went to Bill Burr?
That was
only
way back.
12 people?
Way back.
Oh, I was like, what is wrong with them?
I mean, Yeah, it happens. It happens quickly for some people. Like they're, what they say, it takes 20 years to be an overnight sensation. Like, but he's been around since I started doing comedy in '97. He's been doing it longer than that. So, but yeah.
Well, speaking about we were talking about rare impressions before we came on the air. You know where I'm going.
Yes, I
give me 5 words from Bill Burr.
Oh, look at this fucking brutal. It's brutal over here. That over here didn't work. But it's like, this fucking guy. It's brutal. Brutal is really the only word I can say. I just say it over and over again. It's brutal. Totally brutal. Anyway, Bill Burr reminds me of a lot of the people that I grew up around. Like my town, everybody always thinks that if you grew up near Boston, and you probably know this, like they think everyone sounds like they're in Good Will Hunting.
Right.
Whereas it's very town to town. Like some towns have it, some towns don't. Like all of my uncles have it, but my dad didn't because he was the youngest of the 7, and my dad was so ultra determined to make sure that my brothers and I didn't have a Boston accent that he would correct us on. And for a long time, he tried to convince me that the word spatula was actually spatular because he thought people had been saying it incorrectly for his entire life. He thought that it was just like a Boston accent. He'd be like, the word is spatular. And I had to show him.
Because Boston people hate R's. That's what I always say.
Yeah,
that's what I love Boston is my favorite accent of all time.
Well, I don't know why people love the Boston accent.
I love it
with such a passion. It's my least favorite. Although I do love Australians, and Australian accents and Boston accents are strangely similar. The hat, like it's they know no I's.
They don't like the R's. Yeah. I love saying that to Boston people. I'm like, why do you guys hate R's so much? And they're like, I hate us.
Hate us? What you queer? What?
Well, when I mention it,
that's what people said when I was a kid. Oh, Finnegan is fucking queer. That's my childhood right there.
When I mention it, I'm like, well, do you like the accent? And if a woman says, yes, I like it, I'll play into it. I'll go full Ben Affleck on it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, other than that, no, I don't have it all.
I always it is a pet peeve of mine if I'm watching, because I'm not great at it, but it's like I can hear it correctly. And when movies and TV shows, or when people make fun of the Boston accent, and they'll be like Boston. It's like, no, it's not. That's an R syllable. Like Boston, like the O syllable is more like Boston. I had to be in Boston. It's much. It's not like Boston. Not everything. So yeah, that's my little pet peeve. Like as much as I love Julianne Moore, when she was on 30 Rock, she played a character from Boston, and her accent was very spotty, and I.
Very awful. Not
did
great.
Did not earn my admiration in that particular role.
Yeah.
What was it like working with Dave Chappelle? Because that's one of our heroes.
Yeah, it was like catching a home run ball, for me as like a young, or not even young, but like a newer comic. I was very fortunate because, I was a huge Chappelle fan. In many ways, like Killing Him Softly, which is his first big special, was one of the things that kind of convinced me to get into stand-up. And I was a huge fan of Half Baked. And when he moved to New York to start filming Chappelle's show, his partner was this guy Neil Brennan, who's very respected comedian now. And Neil and I became friendly. I used to host like a crappy bar show at the back of a youth hostel, and Neil would come and do my show a lot, and sometimes Dave would come along, and he'd be like stoned out of his gourd because it was not like a prestige gig playing at the back of a youth hostel. But it is funny because he was filming the show, and then Neil said to me, he's like, hey man, we'd love it if you auditioned for this one sketch. We think you'd be really great for it. And then I read the script, and it was like, oh, okay, so when you needed like a beta, pathetic, emasculated white guy, I was the name that came to your head. And that's hard to not be a little insulted, but it really was the role I was born to play. It will be on my tombstone, and that is fine. But the difference between like a few people when he first would do my show at this youth hostel. He did it like 5 times. The first couple times he did it, it was before the show aired. And so there might be a few people who'd seen Half Baked, or somebody like, hey, who's that guy? I think I've seen him and stuff. By the last time he did it, the show was on the air and it was a huge success. And it was like, he was talking to a few of us and he said, everywhere I go, I feel like the ring bearer at a wedding, which is if you've never, there was a brief time when that show was really at its peak where I probably got recognized between 10 and 15 times a day. And it was uncomfortable. I didn't like it, to be perfectly frank. I learned something about myself, that as much as I want to be respected by my peers and I want people to like what I do, I don't function well in the I'm at the laundromat and people are looking at me, like that kind of thing. Yeah. I find it very off-putting, and it actually made me feel very much more sensitive to women, oddly enough, because I would be on the subway and I would see like 2 people start like doing the whisper next to each other in the elbow, and they're like, look kind of, and I'm reading a newspaper or whatever, and I have to pretend that I don't understand what's going on here, because I would look like an asshole if I was like, yes, it's me. You know what I mean? And it made me think, like, how many times I've seen like a hot woman on a subway and I thought I was being so slick by not like ogling her openly, but it's like, I'm sure that she could feel the tension of somebody looking at her, and so I've made an impression on me that nobody is ever as slick as they think they are in those situations.
Well, now I have to apologize, because at Podjam, I kept telling you, I'm like, I know that guy from somewhere. I know I've seen that guy before. So I was doing that.
That's natural. We're in a performance. I mean, that's where it's natural.
I know that.
No, swear to God. We didn't recall the Chappelle show, but as I was doing research this week, I'm like,
I know,
oh my
I've
God.
seen him. And then when you sent me the thing, you sent me his skit, and I was like, that's it. Because when I had saw your skit on the Chappelle show, I'm like, that's hilarious how they found a guy who looks a lot like Mike the Miz that was on The Real World.
yeah. That probably had a lot to do with it. I didn't make the connection at the time, but yes, I'm sure that was not a complete coincidence. But yeah, I mean, but like recognizing somebody is natural. We all do it, and that when I used to go to auditions, haven't really auditioned for anything in a long time. I'm kind of only half. I don't really have any acting interests at this point, but when I used to audition for things, sometimes I would see somebody and I'd instinctively be like, oh, hey, because I would assume that they were a comedian that I had met at one point. And now I'd realize, oh, no, you played Beecher on Oz. I didn't realize. You forget that these actors, they're all still working actors. They're all still going on auditions and things like that. And just because you happen to see them on a show. I used to be on that show Best Week Ever on VH1. And we would make fun of pop culture and stuff. And one day I was at an audition and this guy walked up to me and he said, hey man, you were making fun of me on VH1 last week. And it was that guy, he was on Silicon Valley. He's that guy. He's a guy you would definitely recognize. But he had played Robin Williams in the Mork and Mindy made-for-TV movie that had come out. It was like probably 2005 or something like that. And it was not great. And so we were making jokes about it on VH1. You know, little did I know that would come back to bite me in the ass. He was totally nice about it, but it was very odd to think like, oh, you're a real person. You're not just like some guy who was in a movie that, you know, like this can actually come back to bite you.
Yeah.
What do you think would have became of Chad like today? Where would Chad be today?
He'd probably have gone like hardcore right wing. Like he'd have gone like Ben Shapiro. He'd be like a Rogan dude. Like he would have gone hard right. That's the fan base for that dude. Is like humiliated, like white dudes who feel like unjustifiably humiliated. Like I promise you, he'd be like one of those Ben Shapiro fans.
That's what I thought the answer would be. You still friends with Shrud?
Yeah. I don't see him often, but I bump into him at shows and stuff like that, and we text each other occasionally. But
what's he up?
But we're middle-aged men. We don't have friends.
What's he up to? Because I haven't heard from him since the Opie show.
Yeah, Sherrod, I don't know. I actually haven't spoken to him in a couple months, but he's around town, doing sets. He performs at the Cellar a lot. But I honestly don't know. We're not like hangout friends, but we're still texting friends. We saw each other a lot for a few months, and then not as much since.
And are you still working on that cult thing that you were workshopping?
I'm not.
The game show, right?
That was great.
Or yeah. The problem is, when I was at this Podjam thing, I had come up with this idea for a show where the audience and I would collaborate to sort of create a cult on the spot, was on different questions and parameters. And I was very excited about it. And I was really, and the audience in Vegas was perfect for it because everybody was there in a good mood and wanted to be supportive. And I obviously hadn't worked out the kinks, so I needed kind of a gentle crowd. And I came home from Vegas being like, oh man, it's not something yet, but it's going to be something. Mm-hmm. And then I found out that there's a comedian who had grown up in a cult, an LA comic, who has a show that he's done festivals that is almost the same show. I mean, not specifics, but enough so that it would have been like, this already exists,
Yeah.
And so it was very deflating. I mean, I'm happy that I only did it with this sort of closed group of friends, and that I didn't try to, go wide with it and publicize it to the general public, because that would have been, a little more embarrassing. But yes, unfortunately, I have shelved it, sadly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, JL invited us to the Podjam and the after party, and that was the best we have felt since the election. Was that weekend?
It really, they really have to get out and be in a physical space with people one-on-one to reinforce your own sanity and to remind yourself that not everyone has gone insane, and that people are nice and people are friendly, and that even the people who are our allies and are, on the same team as us, it's interacting like this is lovely what we're doing now. But it's not the same as being physically in the same room together. And there is something very nurturing about that. It's good for the soul. And I think one of the reasons that people have gone so fucking crazy, I think the pandemic drove people nuts. And it drove people because they just were missing human interaction. And it made people go to some dark places, I think.
Well, that's when we started this podcast, was during, the pandemic. We took that Trump dollar stuff and we bought the equipment, and we had this idea for a couple of years. We wanted to do it more like a Loveline radio show.
Where we talk about dates and stuff.
But you have a man and a woman giving relationship advice.
Right.
But then we started during the pandemic, and then everything that happened during that,
and then,
it became
just the crazy, you can't get away from the stuff. That's why we found Podjam so refreshing. We're like, is this what it's like to live in a blue city? All these cool people. I'm like, all these people are so cool. Everyone here is so nice. And I love everyone.
We're not surrounded by 80% of people that love pedophiles,
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, we're not surrounded by all the red hats. It was.
Yeah,
it was nice.
It's gotta be brutal. But
yeah.
Anyways,
all right. So, and one last thing, your Substack.
Oh yeah,
new music for olds. How did you come about that?
This is a thing I've been doing for about 2.5, maybe 3 years. I don't know exactly. It's slightly, it's a little sporadic right now just because of summer and because I'm moving. And so usually it's every other week, but it's now kind of been every 3 weeks. But it's just a newsletter that I write. I am one of those people who still pours through the new release section every week and just listens to stuff that I've never heard before. And I don't have kids, and I have dogs, so I do a lot of dog walking, and so I, listen to new music and stuff like that. And I just found that a lot of my friends, my peers, people I grew up with, who I used to talk about music with all the time, now have jobs and kids and responsibilities, and they just don't have the ability to find new stuff. And Spotify and, the algorithms, they will trap you into listening to the same stuff you listened to in college. you'll end up just circling the drain, and you'll be like listening to nothing that came out past 1995, just because it's so easy to do that. And so I kind of, I'd had friends who would ask me, like, how do you even find new music? Like, as if it's like hidden from us. It's not. It's an endless golden corral. It's all out there, and you can just go on, I hate Spotify, and I hate Apple Music, and I hate Amazon Music. They're all fucking evil, but it is the world we are living in. And so the upside of this sort of subscription based music services is that you literally can just treat it like a buffet, and you can just click on things. It doesn't have to be like, what I tell people is like, I cannot promise you that anything I recommend to you is going to be cool. It's not going to make anybody think you're cool, or that, it's not going to be, it won't really necessarily help you be part of the discourse if that's important to you. But it's new, and it's something I like, and it's something that means something to me. And maybe it'll turn you on to the idea of doing your own digging around, because it's so easy, and it's such a simple way to spend an hour a week, is just putting on headphones and looking at album covers and being like, what's this sound like, and kind of being open to different genres that you never would have listened to when you were a kid, because if you were a metal kid, you didn't listen to goth, and if you were a goth kid, you didn't listen to rap. Like, it's all so accessible now. There's no reason to not just have at it, dive in and so that's kind of what the music, what inspired the newsletter. And then also it just kind of gives me a way to write jokes about music, because there's always jokes involved in comedy. Right. And a lot of the stuff, I might have what I think is a very funny AC/DC joke or whatever or AC/DC is not a good example because they're so massive, but it's like, I might have a great joke about Wilco or whatever, and I'm not going to do that at a comedy club, because who the hell knows what people in the audience are listening to, but I still have these stupid jokes in my head. So it's a way to kind of, it's just a way to be funny about music as well.
Right. Like, I went down a rabbit hole. I was like, listening to the new Springsteen box set. And I don't know why I went there. In my head, I'm like, you know what you should listen to? Some Airborne Toxic Event.
Love them.
Yeah. And then I was just like...
Oh, I remember we even had that conversation when we were in Vegas. We talked about this.
Yeah. Then I turned it on to Snow, and we're just both going through the whole catalog, going, I forgot how great this band was.
Yeah. And then, and it's so simple. Like, if you scroll down on that, there'll be like other bands that might be in the same sort of ballpark, and you just sort of play hopscotch and just sort of listen to stuff. But I really think the music, the new music that has meant the most to me over the past few years since I started doing this newsletter is stuff that I literally know nothing about. It's kind of like bobbing for apples. You'll like, this is a neat album cover, or that's a weird band name, or what the hell is this about? And I'll click on, I know nothing about it. Nobody's recommended it to me. And when you sort of stumble upon a nugget of gold, it feels like you found $20 on the street, that feeling of like your day is just better, and that's what I was trying to tell people. Like, there's really only two things you can count on in this world: dogs and songs. Like, those are the only things that will not disappoint you in this life. And there's always new songs. And if you find a new song that you like, it's like your whole life has like a new car smell for a week. Just things, so the sun shines a little brighter. It's just better,
Well,
so what's a nugget that you could give us?
Well, tell me. So I'm trying to think of like what Airborne Toxic. I'm trying to think of like what you might like in that.
Well, I like everything. So, like,
people say that.
Another one I really like lately is Shabuzi. Like, I really got into him. I'm like, then I went down the Shabuzi rabbit hole. I'm like, God, almost all the songs are good.
Okay, I'll recommend something to you if you're at all a fan of like country, but like classic renegade country,
yes.
More like Americana, like old timey.
Yeah, like
country.
The old country. Yeah. I love.
Yeah, this woman S.G. Goodman, who is fantastic. She just put out her third album, and she's from Kentucky, and she's got this voice that just could bust through walls, and just she's a really high quality artist, I think, and she's She's just somebody who I think matters. When you hear her music, she writes a lot about the opioid crisis in Appalachia and stuff, and watching her family members deal with that, and it's just high quality. She's great musicians. I've seen her live, and she's fantastic, and she's kind of making some waves. Like, she plays mid-sized venues now. She'll play like a 2,000 seat venue or something like that. But yeah, so off the top of my head, I would recommend people check out S.G. Goodman.
Cool.
All right.
I'm going to check her out.
I noted it. So
I'm going to check her out.
Well, Christian, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. And if you ever come to Vegas, but you don't really, do you really tour anymore?
I am hoping to. My wife, for the last 12 years, my wife has owned a comedy venue. And since the pandemic, and I had open heart surgery in 2021. And after the pandemic, so I wasn't really able to tour for a while. And then it was so hard keeping this place open that it was really hard for me to get away, because I was probably working there 35 hours a week. But we just sold it. And the idea, before we decided to move, the idea was that I would go back on the road. And so that still is the plan. But now it's probably looking more like the fall or early 2026. But yes, I am hoping to get back on the road big time for sure.
All right. We can tour, get you in JL. They opened up a brand new theater downtown here in Kingman. We can show you around lovely Kingman, Arizona, and all the racists.
Yeah, I can get people to not disliking me. I'm looking forward to it.
I know. Hey, maybe we could tell them, hey, we know some great comedians that you guys could have come perform here.
No, we
What's
watched.
up?
We watched
We
your
should
comedy.
have 'em.
I was sending snow clips of your stand up, and it doesn't play into politics at all.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean,
That's what I'm saying. They've got stuff that's not political. They could do here.
Sometimes though, there is a sort of a contrarian thing about a lot of comedians. It's like, not a lot of my material is political, but if I get the feeling that you don't want me to do political material,
I'm doing it.
Then I kind of want to do it.
See, we would still be happy though. We would be sitting there laughing it up the whole time.
To me, that's the best thing in the world is when you can convince somebody to laugh at something that they don't believe. Like, that to me is like real victory, is like when you can take a premise that people don't think is funny and then make them laugh at it. Like, that to me is a lot more satisfying than just preaching to the choir,
Right.
So, but yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on. And
Pleasure's mine.
next time you talk to Pete Dominic, tell him to check his email. I've been trying to email for a couple of months. Maybe that's on purpose. Maybe that's strategy on his part.
He's been busy.
He's got a lot of balls in the air right now. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I felt bad about his dog.
And he's been on Dean Obadala's show a lot lately,
Oh,
which
yeah.
I've enjoyed. Yeah. So he's been doing that.
Dean's another guy who we all kind of started in the same stand-up world, 20 years
cool.
ago, 25 years ago. Yeah. So
That's awesome.
excellent.
Well, Christian,
Thank you, guys.
Sorry about the audio issues in the beginning. I don't know what was going on here.
Well, all is forgiven.
We're a work in progress.
I lost my
Yeah,
producer.
aren't we all?
I lost my producer a couple weeks ago, so I was trying to do it myself.
Yeah, me and Tech. Yeah, don't worry about it. All right, you guys have a great day. Thanks for having me.
All right,
Okay, thank you.
All right, have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.